Hi, my name is Dylan Sen. I am the Director of Operations here at Paseo AI, and I'm making this video as a general overview of everything you need to know about our software. If you're new here, just in a nutshell, our software, this platform, is essentially an innovation tool. Okay, it's built to understand every facet around your idea and give you a 360-degree view of your idea. So that ranges from the technical side to the broader business and market potential, and ultimately how unique your idea is when it's compared to everything else that's out on the market. I'm going to do this from start to finish, starting from creating an account to running your first idea, and then understanding each component of the Paseo analysis. But if there's a specific section that you want to fast forward to, I'm going to drop the timestamps in the description below. So feel free and go and find whichever you want to fast forward to and click away. But it's my intention that this video should be a sort of a one-stop destination for everything you need to know about the platform. And at the very end, I'll include some contact information in case you want to get in touch with any additional questions. So to start off here, I have the homepage of Paseo pulled up. That's paseoai.com. That's in the URL over here. So it's paseoai.com. I'll put the URL in the description. And what we're going to do is click Launch. Okay, so that'll take you to the homepage of the Paseo app. Quick shortcut in case you don't want to do this, paseo.app is also a URL that you can just type into your browser and it'll take you there. And since this is a brand new account, we're going to click sign up here. And I'm going to create a brand new video test, right? That's not my actual name, but so now I'm going to create an email address, just an arbitrary one here, videotest@gmail.com. These are the two that you need to include. If you want to put in your organization and your organization address, go ahead. Now, make sure, I'm going to start with the sign up process for creating a business account. So if that applies to you here, click yes. So again, this is if you're a part of a team that's using Paseo or your whole company has purchased it for their use. Now, you should have received from either myself or somebody else on my team an access code for signing up for your account. And that'll be the same access code for everybody on your team. And feel free to get in touch with me or somebody else on the team if there's any confusion on this, but typically it's one access code per organization or per team. So I'm going to put in, and what I want to make clear here is that I'm using a sample test code. I'm not using the one that you have received. You'll have received something different. So I'm putting the one that I have here. So now that I have the access code in here, I'll create a sample ID and a password. Once that's in there, go ahead and click accept. Feel free to read everything here. We have our privacy policy and our non-disclosure agreement here, and click accept, and then sign up, and that creates my account. So now I can go ahead and log in, and boom, I'm logged in. So now I've created an account and I have a certain number of runs available to me, which will be pre-built into your B2B subscription. If you're not a B2B user, so in this case, you're using it for your own personal evaluation, make sure you click no under do you have a business account, create your own user ID and your own password, review all of the documentation down here, and click sign up. Log back in with your credentials. And once you're in your newly created account, you'll have to buy runs in order to run the analysis, essentially. We sell packages of 4 runs per package. So in this case, if I want 8 runs, I'm going to use this plus button to iterate up to 2. So that'll give me, again, 2 packages, which is 8 runs in total. I'll add to the cart, click to checkout, and it'll take me to the purchasing page here. Once my payment has gone through, it'll take me to the payment successful page, and you'll see that my runs have iterated up automatically to 8. And I can go ahead and start creating an idea. So now we're going to create an idea, okay? And the first thing it needs from me is an idea ID, which is just something for my own record keeping. And I'll call that video ID 1. Then a title of my invention. So that's going to be, so I have an idea already written out, and this will be something you should write yourself, whatever you'd like to run. So the title of this idea is here, use of the factor 10A binding blood thinner. And then a simple description of my idea covering whatever I need it to. So when we're writing an idea, you'll see here that we say within 100 to 300 words as our sort of sweet spot. To clarify, the software will run no matter how many words you have. If you have 2 words, it'll run the analysis. If you have 2,000 words, it'll run. But what we found is that 100 as a minimum target is about enough to account for all the detail and all of the sort of clarity that you need to properly describe an idea. And then 300 words is, beyond 300 words, we notice sort of a plateauing effect in the efficacy of the analysis. Again, you can put 10,000 words if you like, but typically we find that this 100 to 300 word range is the sweet spot. So you'll notice here, I'm coming in at 102 words, bare minimum here, basically. And I've got a good readability score. And what the readability score refers to is essentially the ease at which somebody can understand what you're saying. So this is just essentially to account for any kind of grammatical errors or any kind of syntax errors that you might run into that might complicate or otherwise confuse either yourself or somebody reviewing it or the software itself. So now that I've gotten the all clear from the software, I am good to go. Here, if you have a diagram that that documents your idea, what you can do is upload that if you want to scan it and upload that. It'll generate a text description of the diagram, and you can use that to supplement your description. So now that that's ready to go, I'll click update. This button run will pop up on the side here, and I'll click run. And now that's all I need to do as the user. Doesn't need any more input from me. I have done my job, and now I'll sit back and wait as Paseo runs its analysis. So I want to go through each component of the analysis for you and talk about what each one of them is telling me. So as I mentioned before in the beginning of the video, the goal of this software is to tell you everything you need to know about your idea. The first thing you want to know is how feasible your idea is. So what do I mean by feasible? A frequent occurrence in the world of inventions and innovations is that somebody will have an idea that they think is brilliant, the next best thing since sliced bread, but it can't be built because it violates one of the laws of physics, it's illegal to build, or it's just otherwise impossible to build. So this is our first checkpoint here. We want to tell you, can you build this, right? So fortunately, I've got a feasible idea, right? And we'll show our work, we'll tell you why it's feasible or why it's unfeasible. So here then in the feature analysis, we're going to talk about essentially the features that make up your idea. We're binding to the active site of factor 10A. We'll catalyze the conversion of prothrombin, et cetera, et cetera. The first section of this analysis essentially is us telling you how we interpret your idea. And if you disagree with the way that we've interpreted it, typically that is an indication that something in your description needs to change. Something about there are things that need to be explained a little bit differently or fleshed out, or some things that need to be amended. So keep that in mind as we go through each one of these first couple of analyses here. So next, every idea is supposed to solve a problem, right? Otherwise, what's the point? And we want to understand exactly what problem you're trying to solve is. So that's what we have here. And if you disagree, again, that's another indication that maybe you should explain some different components of the invention. So we identify what the problem is, and we discuss and explain the significance of each of these problems in a real-world context. Okay. Next, we'll move on to the technology analysis, which is essentially understanding where your idea fits in to the business world at large. What industries, what verticals would this play in? What are companies that could potentially acquire or license your idea once it's built and on the market? And again, if you disagree with this, that's an indication that maybe you should explain your concept a little bit differently. But essentially, this section and your problem analysis, think about it as the first couple of sections of your business plan, right? Talking about who is likely to buy this, who is likely to invest, who is likely to acquire, and roll that into the way that you explain and pitch your idea to whomever you're trying to pitch to. Next, the CPC analysis. So the CPC is essentially the way that the U.S. Patent Office classifies different inventions, okay? And typically when people file for patents, they'll file under a limited range of CPC codes. So if I have an electrical engineering invention, I'm filing under electrical engineering codes or a subset of electrical engineering codes. But limiting, oftentimes inventors will find themselves limiting the chances of their patent being accepted because they've limited the number of CPC codes that they file under. So this section here identifies every single CPC code that you could potentially file this patent under to increase your chances of being accepted by the U.S. Patent Office should you file for a patent. So under potential products and services, we consider the fact that your idea could be an invention on its own, and very likely it would be, but it could also be a component of a larger product. And we go and we find all of those larger products that it could potentially be a component of, and we break it down for you here. Again, this is for a business. This is for understanding your idea in the context of the industry that it's in at large. So moving beyond that, we also look at where your idea would be most likely to do well geographically. So every market around the world that your idea would play well in. And so here we're talking about in the US, we've got California, New York, Texas, Florida, Bavaria in Germany, Scotland in the United Kingdom, Osaka in Japan. So moving forward, we're going to go to products offering similar features. So essentially, this is going to go and comb what products are available on the market right now and build a list of products that have features that are in common with your idea. And we'll list the company and the website that built it, for you to go and check as well. So essentially, think of this as a component of your market analysis. We're providing a list of products already solving the problem that you're trying to solve, and show what features overlap with your product and potentially what doesn't overlap. Unfortunately here, we're not finding any features that don't overlap with what I've described. So the competition will be pretty steep for if I wanted to enter this idea into the market. But essentially, we don't guarantee that these are all the products that are similar, but it's mostly a direction for understanding what people are doing in your space. If somebody has built something with all the features that you're describing, entering the market with your idea might be challenging, which is very much the case here. But if there are features that pop up that they're not doing, that's an indication that you should follow that. That's what's going to help you stand out more in the market, right? This can help if you're not IP focused either. This is essentially an idea of what other products are on the market and justification for entering that market, especially if you're not looking to trademark or patent. So this section here is going to be pretty important for the next couple of analyses that we do. So now when we talk about the concept table, an idea can be seen as sort of a compilation of concepts connected together. And this module here, or this section of the analysis, identifies what they are based on your idea description and then ranks them according to the way that you emphasize it in the text and the way that you describe your invention. We list them here, and then we use this later on when we discuss the uniqueness analysis of your idea. So when you first type in your idea, so when you saw me typing in the idea description earlier and then clicking run, essentially what Paseo did was it went through the entire USPTO database and it read through everything that's on there. And then it found the 60 most relevant pieces of prior art out of a sea of over 20 million pieces of prior art that are similar to your idea. So what's prior art? Okay, prior art is essentially a catch-all term that includes patents that have been granted, patent publications, which is essentially all the documents associated with a patent through its life cycle, from the initial application all the way up to its granting, and then 200 million journal articles that have any degree of similarity with your patent. So to be clear, prior art is patents that have been granted, patent publications, which is any document associated with granting a patent, and journal articles. So these are published academic literature. And we've read through all over 220 million of these prior art, and we found 60 that are similar. And then we tell you exactly how similar your idea is to these 60 publications that we found, and we tell you why. So the first thing that we talk about here is just overall similarity. So we tell you everything there is to know about the prior art here. So we start with the reference number. We give you a link to it. We tell you how similar it is from 0 to 100. We tell you what the status is and the FTO risk. So essentially, FTO is the first scan of evaluating infringement risk. And we tell you everything else about it too. So we give you the assignee, all the publishers associated with it, and the title. So, and if you want to read it, you can click that link and we'll go and find you that prior art, and you can download it to read yourself. And we color code everything here. So anything above 80% here will show up as high risk or red, and we do sort of a classic red, yellow, green, high, medium, low color scheme here. The next thing I want to tell you about is obviousness. So obviousness is kind of a complex concept. And essentially, it describes and it determines if your idea that you've described can be implemented by an obvious extension of a single existing invention, or by an obvious combination of multiple existing inventions. So what does that mean? Another way to look at that is, even if my idea is new, how easy would it have been for an expert in this field to come up with it? So if I have a faucet in my bathroom that has 3 openings through which water flows out, and my invention is to add a 4th opening into that faucet, anybody who knows anything about sinks could have come up with that, and that'll get rejected at the USPTO for being too obvious, an extension of the single existing invention. Let me start that over. So essentially, to give you an example, if I have a faucet in my bathroom that has 3 openings through which water comes out, if my invention is a faucet with 4 openings for more water to flow out, that's a little obvious, right? That's anybody who knows anything about sinks or faucets would have been able to come up with that invention, and so it'll get rejected at the USPTO. So that's your single use or single feature, single prior art obviousness. Essentially, so multi-prior art obviousness is essentially if patent number 1 has features A, B, and C, and patent number 2 has features X, Y, and Z, and my invention is smushed together A, B, and C, and X, Y, Z, that gets rejected at the USPTO for multi-prior art obviousness. So what we do here, these can be subjective. Obviousness is a subjective determination typically, but we use a quantitative analysis to arrive at an obviousness score. The higher the obviousness score is, the greater the probability that your idea can be implemented by just slightly modifying or combining existing inventions or prior arts. So we take your idea and we break it down into concepts, and we assign an obviousness score first to the idea as a whole here, and then we go concept by concept and tell you how obvious each facet of your idea is for a single prior art obviousness, and then we combine the most similar prior arts together, and then we do the same analysis to see how obvious your idea is when you combine prior arts. So the last section here is the prior art patent landscape. So for all of the prior art that we identified in the previous sections, we essentially go back to them and we create a comparison table between the concepts and features in your idea and the prior art. For the prior art that we identified previously, we then go and create a comparison table between the concepts from your idea and the concepts from the prior art. And we break it down to, just like the previous tables, give you an individual percentage for similarity for each concept and each feature described. So the purpose of this section is to understand where you have space to innovate. Essentially, we go back and we, just like before, we take the concepts and the features of your idea and we compare them to all the prior art we found before. And once we compare them, we assign a similarity score. How similar is this feature or this concept when we compare it to the prior art? And we want to find which components of your idea are not represented on the market. Even if what you have right now is not unique enough to stand out in the market, we want to show you exactly where you can go from here, where you can refine your idea to quickly find space in the market. So let's go to this features landscape here. So because we're assigning colors to each score, we want your eye to go right to where the green is and find out where you can innovate. Maybe here it's fibrin, okay, or thrombin. And you see that these texts don't cover anything about thrombin. That's where you can innovate. Or here, prothrombin factor 2. a lot of green space here. Maybe that's a section where you can innovate. Essentially, we want to show you where the space is in the market so you can quickly and rapidly iterate your idea and run it through our engine a few more times until you know exactly how unique your idea is, where it is in the market, and you feel confident to send it out to the next stage. So I want to bring your attention to the left-hand side here. You may have noticed a section here that says uniqueness low. And essentially what that is a decisive verdict from us on the uniqueness of your idea. When we compare your idea to what's out on the market right now, we give you a decisive verdict at the end. And the way that it stands right now, if I were to submit this to a patent examiner or a patent office, the odds I'd be rejected are pretty high. But that gives me ample opportunity and ample direction on how to iterate my idea rapidly and efficiently until I know that it's a real contender on the market. And then lastly, we give you a short, digestible summary of what we've just shown you in this analysis, with sort of the key points highlighted. And if it turns out this is what you want to submit to some kind of patent process, we give you the first draft of claims. And if you'd like, you can download each section of this report as either a PDF or a CSV file. Last but not least, if there's anything in this video that you need extra clarification on or I didn't address, feel free to reach out to the email address listed down in the description, and somebody from my team will be with you within 24 hours. And it's our hope that this is a tool that helps you on your invention journey and helps you get from point A to point B that much faster. Thanks.